So we have our Properties of Water lab, and you guys are going to be at your stations, meaning your tables, for a couple of these. And yes, you need to wear goggles. All right? Yeah, I am recording you. Okay, so let's walk through a couple things. This is the basic setup here for stations 1, 2, 3, and 4. For 5, 6, and 7, you're going to go to another place, and I'll show you that in a second. So look, you're going to basically have a penny. You're going to put in. Every group should have a little water drop bottle, and you're going to add your drops. Now, so that's step 1. Step 2, you need to get some of these. They're basically bicycle slides. Let's make sure they're dried. Step 3. You're going to fill this up, and we want to be able to tell that little curvature, that name. I'm not going to say it now. I expect you to know it. All right? When you do that, let's actually make sure we don't use, this to fill it up. This is not how you do that. This is for the other steps. So go to the sink to fill this up. And the directions say fill 50 milliliters. I want to change that. Okay? I just want we want to be able to see if you can tell what that curvature is, what the name of it, and describe what's going on. There. All right? So make a note on your paper. You're going to fill it up between 35 and 45 milliliters. You're going to sketch it, and we're going to write out what the name and the property of water that's happening that allows for that to occur. Okay. First step 2, just to go back, so you'll sketch that, and you need to explain why. Let's make sure we understand what's happening for each of these. Okay. So step 4. Okay. So you're going to have 2 different squares, and you're going to put your drops. Try and put your drop and see what happens. See what happens. Does it absorb or does it bead up? Explain what's going on here. It's actually 2 principles there. Next, so at this point, you've done all this pretty much at your seat. Okay? And then pH. So let's do this. All right. So you have sample A, B, C. You have a cup for A with a forceps, not tweezers, forceps. You have a cup for B, you have a cup for C, and you have forceps for each one. Here's your little trash can. Let's make sure before you start you thoroughly wipe this down. You take one in, and I'm not going to drop it in there, but you dip it, and then you kind of dip it in, pull it out, and on the table you have a little scale. You're going to write down the pH. That's it. Wipe it down, drop it, move on to the next one, move on to the next one. Where this gets kind of busy is if there's 3 or 4 people up there and they don't. So you have A, make sure you put it back with A. And we only have 1 scale for you to look at. So that is there's 3 different substances. Identify the pH. Okay? Now, let's say, I'm going to go ahead and let's go and talk about the second and third. Second time you're going to be away from your seat. All right? So we have 2 beakers, and we also have step 7. Okay? So step 7 is going to, one group is going to do that for you. Now, the other, this one, basically, let me just change here. As you come over, you're going to walk to the back. We're not doing much with this one. All you're doing is you're going to identify the substance and see which one dissolved in water. Water is the universal what? Solvent. So we're going to see which one of these and just make an observation. So that doesn't take that long. Then, step 7, we're going to have 2 students record the temperature, and they'll write that up there for you. So now let's add in something else that we may do. And so there's 7 stations. There's 2 properties of water that we will also want to demonstrate. So you'll see adhesion, cohesion. You'll see a combination. All right, here's one combination that is not just for observation. So let me show you. Come back over here. All right. This has been soaking. All right. Plants have tubes. We call them xylem and phloem. They take water in. We put a little dye in, if you notice, that's got pulled in. What's that called? It's a combination of two principles of water, where they act together to get drawn into a tube. Remember the example we were talking about, you taking your finger, putting it over a straw. Yes?
Cohesion?
Cohesion, in addition to adhesion, can create another phenomenon. So it's adhesion and cohesion combining, being pulled from, basically going against gravity, being pulled up a tube. Anyone know that? Do you remember capillary action? That's this. On your future quiz, we're going to expect any of these scenarios to be a picture for you to describe it. For example, let's talk about one other idea that we want to demonstrate, and that's over going to be back on this cart underneath. And this is where we are going to, let's move this out of the way. You're going to fill this up with water, and you're going to try and do something. You're going to take a paper clip and float it on top. What is that demonstrating? Huh? It's on the tip of my tongue. What? Huh?
Think of a water bug.
Water bug, the water strider one? Yes. No?
It's like that surface tension.
Surface tension, yes. Now let's explain that. This is actually going to be, so we have 7 parts of the lab. This is part 8. So on the paper, you're going to actually write your written description over here. So look at the mouse. I want you to write your answer for here, but everyone go ahead, right onto the left of your right, number 8, surface tension. You're going to basically describe what you did, okay? And we're going to make a number 9. I'll tell you about that in a second. But so think about surface tension. That is, well, what is surface tension? Let's think about every property of water and be very picky about what's going on here. What's going on? What do you see? This is water. What? Attached to other water? What's that called? What? Cohesion. I heard someone say cohesion. Okay. Now, this hydrogen is interacting with the oxygen of another water molecule. So that's a hydrogen bond that results in water to water, which causes cohesion. The collective combination of cohesion creates that surface tension. All right? Something that's not strong enough to break the bonds is going to not. It's So reality is, here's the model. We're going to see if that. Well, it's a magnet, but see the paper cup floating on it. Except we're already going to have. We'll have water. So when you do this, by the way, do it at one of the sinks, and then we're going to use our pink trays. We're going to use our pink trays to carry a lot of things we want to be able to make sure it's dry. So that's pretty much it. The last thing. Over there, one of you, or actually we need a couple volunteers, you're going to do this, and then we're going to turn the water on, and we're going to see what happens. It should bend the water. That's because water is polar, and we've taken the static electricity from your hair, transferred it to this balloon, and then that is going to interact with the positive and negative parts of water, because water is polar. So that, you can write over here as well. Call that number 9, the balloon. So we're changing the handout. We had 7 stations, but number 8 is going to be surface tension. Number 9 is the balloon. Are there any questions? All right. Let's talk about how we're going to do the lab. Some are going to do the first parts at your seat while some do the acid bases. Then we're going to switch